day, good midday, maybe. I'm Sandqvist from Swedish Smart Grid Forum. We are a governmental initiative and we aimed at promoting smart grid in Sweden and globally. The Swedish Coordination Council on Smart Grid, which forms the basis, public commission that forms the basis for our work, they made up scenarios where they look on the fast or slow introduction of renewables, and also the focus on consumers and how much benefit would the consumer have from the future electricity system. This was done in 2014, and now as we have started or succeeded this forum and we look upon the development, what we can see then is that what happened after 2014 is that we have a very fast introduction of renewables. So we did get an answer, we have got an answer there. There is also some other development, is the digitalization, which impact the sector quite a lot. It is also the development on the cost for renewables, and especially solar power, which make room for microgrids, for individuals to have their own production of electricity and make them prosumers. And also the development on storage, which have a great impact on the market and on the development. And this means that if we look at this graph, I would say that the technology development, digitalization, and also policy in terms of what goal we set up for renewables, and I will come for that in the Swedish context, and we heard about the European context in this. So this drives up in the right corner, where we have a high focus on the consumer. We want them active, we want them satisfied, and to take part in the electricity system. Technology definitely, as we've heard, drive up in this digitalization, help in this. And we have fast introduction of renewables. But the key question then is if regulation follow on to this, so that we will still have a resilient electricity system and also the proper rules in the electricity market. So that I think is this development is sort of happening, but we need to have policy, technology, and regulation to go along in this, and does it happen? Another thing that I want to talk a bit is in this development is digitalization, which goes on in itself, and it will impact the role on the electricity market. So we will go towards a networked electricity market, networked society, rather than a top-down society. And that, I think, will have a huge impact on the electricity market, on the consumer's role, prosumers, the electricity companies, the electricity providers, the grid companies. So all of us will be influenced by this. And therefore it's very interesting to think of, and already today I think we think of the electricity system 2040. This is the picture to have in mind, the vision, I would say. So having said that, I will go a little bit into the Swedish electrical grid. Where are we? We've had for a long time introduced 1893. We have had technologies such as HVDC and FACTS in 1950s, which has taken us to a leading position in smart grid and ICT companies and so into this sector. So we have a strong industrial base in power system, electricity system. This map shows the geographical spread in Sweden, and I know if I can I point? Is it possible? Yeah. So you see, we have We have production in the north and in the south. The population is mostly in the middle. It's not in the middle. It's around Stockholm here, this area, Malmö, and Gothenburg. So this means we do have a challenge in distance, and have always when it comes to distribution, transfer system of electricity in Sweden. So we have that experience as well. And it is also shows the mix. We have a fossil-free electricity system, and it's hydropower, nuclear power, bioenergy, and wind mainly, and a small amount of solar energy, which is increasing actually. So this shows a typical European grid investment cycle, and what we can conclude for this is that there is a need for investment, and it's it's time for that now, and there are extensive plans on investment in the grid in Europe and in Sweden, but not to say that all of it have taken off or been realized yet. But one important thing in this is that there is a need for investment, and what is important then is to think of the future when we do the investment. So we take on board new technology and smart technology as we do the investment to achieve the sustainable energy system, but also to have a resilient energy system over time. So the investment we have today will last for long. And it also means that we have to look at the life cycle cost, not only in short-term cost when it comes to investment. It's also so that to do that, we also need to work with demonstration, pilots, show new technique to be able to manage the risk, to take on board new technology as we invest in the grid and in the electricity system. Sorry, it's a little bit on energy policy in Sweden. Swedish energy politics is based on 3 pillars. It should be ecological, sustainable, competitiveness, and security of supply. 5 major Swedish political parties agreed in June 2016 on the future development up until 2045, 2040 on the development of the energy system. So the target set are we should have no net emissions of greenhouse gases after 2045, and that includes also the transport sector then. 100% renewable electricity production 2040, and 50% more energy efficient energy usage 2030 compared to 2005. So you can see there we do have a challenge. We are convinced we're going to achieve those targets, but we need to, as I said, we need to invest, we need to work on research and development, demonstration, but also to look on how does the electricity market and energy market work in Sweden to achieve those goals. And smart grid, it's crucial to achieve those goals as well. It makes the transition to integrating renewable energy, increase efficiency, and also integrate energy storage and facilitate prosumers, which will be essential to reach these quite ambitious political targets. EU, of course, we are integrated with the EU policy-wise. We are a member of the European Union, so we have to take on board regulations. We are also with the infrastructure connected, so also on the market we are connected to EU. So we are dependent and active there, and we are still analyzing the proposal from the Commission, but so much I can say that, the direction we sympathize with and we support to make it easier to integrate renewables, more active consumers, and so forth, a more flexible energy system. Yeah. So A few Swedish lessons learned. First, I want to point out that we have had deregulated market for quite many years, which basically give the consumers the right to choose which electricity supply to have, or if they want to put a solar PVs on the rooftop, or so forth. So there is quite much room for acting for the consumers in that way. I would like to give you some more, maybe I can do like this, information on the reform on smart metering we had in Sweden. We started it already 2003 with a target to have monthly automatic meter reading for all electricity meters by July 2009. And we had put in place some new legislation, which meant that the rollout worked out well. I have some figures here, so I need to. So overall, the national deployment of smart meters was carried out by means of about 150 projects, aiming about 1.5 billion euro, and more than 5 million meters were installed then. In 2012, we had a second reform to give all consumers the right to have hourly meeting. But what we could discover was that the interest among the consumers were not that big. So far, 8,600 electricity meters have been signed up for hourly rate agreements. However, many of the electricity suppliers voluntarily initiated hourly meetings. So we have about 1 million meters installed for that purpose. Next step we do now in this is a more stringent requirements on the meter's performance. That is more smart meters. So more data, shorter time period, and this will give the consumer and the electricity supplier and the grid companies better conditions to be flexible as they get access to data. And it will also allow two-way communication. And it will be mandatory that everyone will have this hourly meeting with the possibility to go down to measuring every 15 minutes, which means quite a short time. So that is the next step in one of our main reforms for the smart grid and for the flexibility. And now I know I'm running out of time, but just very shortly show you some of our demonstration projects that we also do for the future. So we have this one research project called SwedeGrids, Smart Power, IC Tools, Controllable Intelligent Components, Storage, Materials. So we try to cover the whole system there in our development. We have this project called Samspel, it's coordination, more or less, where we try once again to have quite a broad view on it, to look both on the technology but also on behavior, business model, trying to understand how does consumer react on a certain technology, for instance, or possibility. Stockholm Royal Seaport, it's a project that involves the Swedish Energy Agency, Fortum, that is a energy company, Ericsson, ICT company, maybe you know, ABB, Electrolux. Electrolux is a home appliance company. And here is the aim is to build a smart electricity grid in the city, and with active consumers again to follow and learn behavior by electricity users, and also how to control and adapt production to the usage of a smart way and a smart grid. So here we hope to could look a little bit into the possibility to shift the load, for instance, or get consumers to help in that. Smart Grid Gotland, it's a project. Gotland is a small island in the Baltic Sea in Sweden. It's 58,000 inhabitants, and it has about 45 to 50% of wind power, so a high degree of renewables within that small system. And there we have had an installation of and tested WordEdge, world-leading smart grid technology. And some lesson we have learned there is that it have reduced the power failure, power cuts, but also the time the power cuts remain. So we have been able there to show that smart grid and smart grid solution is a cost-effective alternative to conventional investment in the grid or in networks. And it's also a horizontal project with many different actors. So, Sweden and India, we have long tradition of cooperation for a long time, and now we have a MOU especially on energy between Sweden and India, where one of our main focuses has been on microgrid on the island of Andaman and Nicobar, where Sweden and the Swedish Energy Agency and MNRE do cooperate on this with companies and so forth. So, finally, go back to what I said first. The development towards sustainable energy system will go on. Very important and key question is that policy, technology and regulation go hand in hand on this. Digitalization will change the shape of the electricity market. Anyway, what we say, it will happen. And investment is needed, but have a long-term view on it. Okay, thank you very much.